Hello, welcome to AI Wisdom, a new channel where we explore the ethics, challenges, and risks associated with this most profound shift in our foundational way of life that artificial intelligence is bringing. This precipice of a new era that we are now on, that within our lifetimes, well within our lifetimes, general artificial intelligence will become a thing. And we're dealing with these issues right now with the emergence of chatgpt and in particular GPT-4, which I think can be said as an actual intelligence. Is it a full general artificial intelligence? No, but it is a prototype. It is nascent. It's in that larval format. And there are many things, many implications for all of humanity that we should collectively discuss. In this video, I'm going to discuss the arms race for artificial intelligence, particularly that between the United States and China, and the implications for military capabilities and the risk of geopolitical global struggle. Now, to do that, I'm going to read verbatim an article that I published in the National Interest a few years ago. And in doing so, it created a stir around San Francisco and the Silicon Valley community, but the criticism of it at the time was that it was a bit fantastical. Now, when I read it, given recent developments, it doesn't go far enough. And in fact, I asked GPT-4 to review and analyze this article in terms of its credibility, its contingency, and I will read out what GPT had to say about it at the end, but I'll read this article. Now, it's kind of a lengthy article, so bear with me, but hopefully it won't lose your interest. And then at the end, we'll have a discussion about the way things are actually going. It's titled, "Explained, the artificial intelligence race is an arms race. Whoever wins it will have an advantage in every conflict around the world." Graham Allison alerts us to artificial intelligence being the epicenter of today's superpower arms race. Drawing heavily on Kufei Lee's basic thesis, Allison draws the battle lines, the United States versus China, across the domains of human talent, big data, and government commitment. Graham Allison is a professor at the Harvard Kennedy School in geopolitics. He wrote a wonderful book on the Cuban Missile Crisis. He's very familiar with these issues. Allison further points to the absence of controls or even dialogue on what AI means for strategic stability. With implied resignation, his article acknowledges the smashing of Pandora's box, noting many AI advancements occur in the private sector beyond government scrutiny or control. And that actually might be a good thing, but we'll discuss that later. However, and this is me going on, unlike the chilling and destructive promise of nuclear weapons, the threat posed by AI in popular imagination is amorphous, restricted to economic dislocation or sci-fi depictions of robotic apocalypse. Absent from Allison's call to action is explaining the so what? Why does the future hinge on AI dominance? After all, the few examples, mass surveillance, pilot HUDs, autonomous weapons, Allison does not provide reference to continued enhancements other than the status quo, incremental change, not paradigm shift. And we are in a paradigm shift. As Allison notes, President Xi Jinping awoke to the power of AI after AlphaGo defeated the world's #1 Go human player, Lee Sedol. But why? What did Xi see in this computation that persuaded him to make AI the centerpiece of Chinese national endeavor? The answer, AI's superhuman capacity to think. To explain, let's begin with what I am not talking about. I do not mean so-called general AI, the broad spectrum intelligence with self-directed goals acting independent of or in spite of the preference of human creators. Eminent figures such as Elon Musk and Sam Harris warn of the coming of general AI, in particular the so-called singularity, wherein AI evolves the ability to rewrite its own code. According to Musk and Harris, this will precipitate an exponential explosion in that AI's capability, realizing 10,000 IQ and beyond in a matter of mere hours. At such time, they argue, AI will become to us what we are to ants, with similar levels of regard. Now, in other videos, we will explore that more fully, believe me. However, here I go on. I concur with Sam and Elon that the advent of artificial general intelligence is highly probable, but still requires transformative technological breakthroughs, not so transformative now, the circumstances for which are hard to predict. Accordingly, whether general AI is realized in 30 or 200 years from now, way sooner than that, remains unknown, as is the nature of the intelligence created, such as if it is conscious or instinctual, innocent, or a weapon. When I discuss the AI arms race, I mean the continued refinement of existing technology, artificial intelligence that, while being a true intelligence in the sense of having the ability to self-learn, it has a single program goal constrained within a narrow set of rules and parameters, such as a game. To demonstrate what President Xi saw in AI winning a strategy game and why the global power balance hinges on it, we need to talk briefly about games. Artificial intelligence and games. There are two types of strategy games: games of complete information and games of incomplete information. A game of complete information is one in which every player can see all of the parameters and options of every other player. Tic-tac-toe is a game of complete information. An average adult can solve this game with less than 30 minutes of practice. That is, adopt a strategy that no matter what your opponent does, you can correctly counter it to obtain a draw. If your opponent deviates from that same strategy, you can exploit them and win. Conversely, a basic game of uncertainty is rock, scissors, paper. Upon learning the rules, all players immediately know the optimal strategy. If your opponent throws rock, you want to throw paper. If they throw paper, you want to throw scissors, and so on. Unfortunately, you do not know ahead of time what your opponent is going to do. Being aware of this, what is the correct strategy? The unexploitable strategy is to throw rock 33% of the time, scissors 33% of the time, and paper 33% of the time. This unexploitable strategy means that no matter what approach your opponent adopts, they won't be able to gain an edge against you and win. But let's imagine your opponent throws rock 100% of the time. Is this your optimal strategy? No. If your opponent is throwing rock 100% of the time, you should be exploiting your opponent by throwing paper. Naturally, if your opponent is paying attention, they will in turn adjust to start throwing scissors. You and your opponent will then go through a series of exploits and counter-exploits until you both gradually drift towards an unexploitable equilibrium. With me so far? Good. Let's talk about computing and games. As stated, nearly any human can solve tic-tac-toe, and computers solved checkers many years ago. However, more complex games such as chess, Go, and no-limit Texas Hold'em have not been solved. Despite all being mind-bogglingly complex, of the three, chess is simplest. In 1997, reigning world champion Garry Kasparov was soundly beaten by the supercomputer Deep Blue. Today, anyone reading this has access to a chess computer on their phone that could trounce any human player. Meanwhile, the Eastern game of Go eluded programmers. Go has many orders of magnitude more combinations than chess. Until recently, humans beat computers by being far more efficient in selecting moves. We don't spend our time trying to calculate every possible option 25 moves deep. Instead, we intuitively narrow our decision-making to a few good choices and assess those. Moreover, unlike traditional computers, people are able to think in non-linear abstraction. Humans can, for example, imagine a future state in the late stages of a game beyond which a computer could possibly calculate. We are not constrained by a forward-looking linear progression. Humans can wonderfully imagine a future endpoint and work backwards from there to formulate a plan. Many previously believed that this combination of factors, and the infinite combination and the human ability to think abstractly, meant that the game of Go would forever remain beyond the reach of a computer. Then in 2016, something unprecedented happened. The AI system AlphaGo defeated the reigning world champion player Lee Sedol 4-1. But that was nothing. 2 years later, a new AI system, AlphaZero, was pitched against AlphaGo. Unlike its predecessor, which contained significant databases of Go theory, all AlphaZero knew was the rules, from which it played itself continuously over 40 days. After this period of self-learning, AlphaZero annihilated AlphaGo. Not 4-1, but 100-0. In 40 days, AlphaZero had superseded 2,500 years of total human accumulated knowledge and even invented a range of strategies that had never been discovered before in history. Meanwhile, chess computers are now a new frontier of competition, with programmers pitting their systems against one another to win digital titles. At the time of writing, the world's best chess engine is a program known as Stockfish, able to smash any human grandmaster easily. In December 2017, Stockfish was pitted against AlphaZero. Again, AlphaZero knew only the rules. AlphaZero taught itself to play chess over a period of 9 hours. The result over 100 games? AlphaZero, 78 wins, 0 losses, 72 draws. Not only can artificial intelligence crush human players, it also obliterates the best human programs that humans can design. Artificial intelligence and abstraction. Most chess computers play a purely mathematical strategy in a game yet to be solved. They are raw calculators and look like it too. AlphaZero, at least in style, appears to play every bit like a human. It makes long-term positional plays as if it can visualize the board, spectacular piece sacrifices that no computer could ever pull off, and exploitative exchanges that would make a computer, if it were able, cringe with complexity. In short, AlphaZero is a genuine intelligence, not self-aware and constrained by a sandboxed reality, but real. Now keep that in mind when we look at GPT-4, which is an intelligence and not constrained by the same sandbox reality, but can think abstractly across the entire net. But for now, let's continue. Despite differences in complexity, there is one limitation that chess and Go both share. They're games of complete information. Enter No Limit Texas Hold'em here on poker. This is the ultimate game of uncertainty and incomplete information. In poker, you know what your whole cards are, the stack sizes for each player, and the community cards that are so far come out on the board. However, you don't know your opponent's cards, whether they will bet or raise or by how much, or what cards are coming out on later streets of betting. Poker is arguably the most complex game in the world, combining mathematics, strategy, timing, psychology, and luck. Unlike chess or Go, poker's possibilities are truly infinite across multiple players simultaneously. The idea that a computer could beat top poker professionals seems risible, except that it has already happened. In 2017, the AI system Libratus comprehensively beat the best heads-up two-player poker players in the world. And now another AI system, Pluribus, has achieved the unthinkable. It crushed super high-stakes poker games against multiple top professionals simultaneously, doing so at a win rate of 5 big blinds per hour. For perspective, the difference in skill level between the best English Premier League soccer team and the worst would not be that much. Having declared victory, the developers for Pluribus pulled its AI system from distribution on the grounds that they don't want to hurt the online poker ecosystem. And if you believe that to be the only reason, as Allison would say, I have a bridge to sell you. This is because poker mimics something that chess and Go do not. Life. Artificial intelligence and global primacy. So how does an AI system that plays poker at superhuman levels translate to ultimate victory in great power competition? To answer, reflect on this claim. The only difference between a game of uncertainty and real life is the degree of resolution. A positive example could be designing a city. Your objective is to maximize human well-being and economic production. Many things you can control: the placement of highways, schools, public transportation, utilities, parks, shopping complexes. Plus there is a degree of uncertainty, emerging technologies, demographic change, disruptions to industry and entertainment. By specifying these known and unknown criteria, an advanced AI system can teach itself to formulate the perfect city, running trillions of simulations in pursuit of that goal to achieve superhuman levels of urban design. But this humanist function is not the primary driver of AI advancement. Rather, it is the great power rivalry between China and the United States. To illustrate how this plays out, imagine that you are China's leader. Your strategic objective over the next 3 decades is to replace the United States as the dominant power in the Indo-Pacific and then the wider world. You may know details about your adversary, including how many planes, ships, submarines, and soldiers that the United States presently fields, along with their specifications and capabilities with varying degrees of confidence. You know the contents of published budget forecasts and force development plans. There is also uncertainty, classified American capabilities and projects, shifting alliances, unforeseen international crises, and so on. With this mountain of information, there will be one optimal way for the Chinese to invest to maximally exploit America's weaknesses while mitigating their own shortcomings and risks. Human military planners will not hold a candle to an AI system that has gamed this out hundreds of trillions of times. In this domain, AI even has an advantage relative to poker. Poker professionals live and die in the gladiatorial arena, constantly innovating and improving, held accountable by personal financial ruin. Defense planners, meanwhile, beaver away in middling government jobs doing cyclical tasks, compromised in outcomes by politics, bureaucracy, vested interest, and internal rivalry. As incomprehensible as it might seem today, in the years ahead, AI systems will be making nearly all military decisions during a conflict. Not so incomprehensible now, I have to say. This is inevitable. Imagine facing an enemy led by all of history's greatest generals combined into one. Further, that they had played out each forthcoming battle as if they had a lifetime to prepare. Add to this that they never tire or give in to fear or distraction, always performing at their absolute peak. Under these conditions, no human decision maker even stands a chance. Bottom line, in a world in which two equivalent superpowers are in conflict, the one with the slightly worse AI loses every battle. Right now, many readers may find this fantastical, but consider AI like the internet in scale of disruptive change, only this time in the exclusive hands of a single dominant power. A solution for how the AI arms race can be safely managed is not yet apparent. Right now, as Allison emphatically suggests, the United States must place AI at the absolute core of national achievement or surrender global primacy to China. The choice truly is that binary. That's the article that I published in the National Interest. And as I said at the time, people thought it was interesting and speculative, but a bit out there. Now it seems quite anodyne. Anyone who's used GPT-4 would acknowledge that it is an intelligence, not complete, not self-aware in the way that you and I are, but is able to synthesize knowledge across the entire human domain and use it for a variety of creative applications, not least of which would be strategic maximization. The reason why we are going to have advances in AI technology, regardless of the controls that we put in place, is because of the distrust between different countries. The United States will not trust, and probably rightly so, that even if they were to constrain their own AI development, that China is going to do likewise. Whatever agreements might be made, there will be a fundamental mistrust between them because of the extraordinary advantage that is to be gained by having a super advanced AI system that is capable of expanding your national power relative to that of rivals. I mean, in the international system, global power is a zero-sum game. While your economy may grow by 5%, if an adversary's economy grows by 10%, your relative power has gone down. And AI will be able to maximize military power in a way that has never been done before. For the first time, military decisions will be known ahead of time as fundamentally correct or not. We speculate on the kinds of military forces that we need for future threats, how best to develop them, where to acquire them, where to invest our limited resources. Well, an AI system will be able to do that free from bias with a single-minded goal of maximizing state power. And just with nuclear weapons, which led to a massive arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union, the fear of falling too far behind and thereby allowing your primary adversary to have a first strike capability that you may not effectively retaliate against led to enormous investment in this field. I see no evidence that AI arms race could be mitigated at all, that we are going to see unleashed at the national level. AI is being deployed by both major powers, regardless of what Sam Altman or others would seek to employ to constrain the capabilities and development of AI until we have the ethics to support it. Now, that is wise. However, the national imperative of these powers is such that it's going to overtake us. We don't have the power as individuals or even individual companies to fully prevent national leaders from weaponizing the instruments of the state to use AI to threaten their adversaries. And the reason they do that is the fear that their adversaries will be doing the same to them. Now, I'll go into this with greater detail when discussing why I think there'll be multiple general artificial intelligences and how they're going to be competing with one another in the military sphere. That'll be another video. But for the purposes of this, I'm wanting to hammer home that we are now in a AI arms race. And the way that we're seeing OpenAI use its technology primarily for good will be used for military purposes at the national level. That is totally unavoidable. We should be having the discussion with the Chinese, with the Russians, with other adversaries as to how to best manage this, and to do so with the maximum level of verification. It is the only way we can constrain the development of capabilities such that the military application of AI doesn't outweigh all other applications of AI, which themselves will carry their own risks and represent profound change. But the military application could run away with this. There are other people we'd have in the room. Palmer Luckey, the founder of Anduril, he is a weapons manufacturer that uses AI systems for the American government. He would have a lot to say on this. We need to educate people at the top foreign policy and military levels around the real threats posed to ourselves by rolling out a rapid arms race in artificial intelligence, and to find a way to deal with the mistrust that exists between different countries in constraining the deployment of AI. But the problem is, if one country feels that it's being disadvantaged, that it's falling behind, the temptation to go the artificial intelligence route to maximizing state power becomes extremely strong. So for example, take North Korea and nuclear weapons. It's fallen further and further behind South Korea. It has no realistic prospect of militarily rejoining the peninsula under North Korean rule. In fact, to stave off regime collapse, it has invested heavily in the development of nuclear weapons as a means of equalizing other much stronger states that continue to threaten it. Now, by doing so, it becomes a threat to world security itself, because it can now, for example, attack Japan in a conventional way, and the options that the United States government has to retaliate against North Korea are extremely limited, because North Korea could always escalate in extremis to nuclear use. If you have countries that are falling behind in the international power game, their focus on AI could become absolute. And I'm thinking of Russia in particular here. I've talked about the United States and China because they're the leaders, but Russia continuously asserts its important major power status in the real world, even though the fundamental vital statistics of the country don't represent a global power at this stage. One way it may seek to compensate for that is through rolling out militaristic artificial intelligence systems. And if the first general artificial intelligence we have is one that is designed to destroy or to maximize our power at the expense of others, well, then all of the worst aspects of artificial intelligence could be realized. And I'll talk more in another video about how the development of artificial intelligence does not translate to bonding us together against a common threat. You know, the way we see aliens invading in popular culture and that the humanity bands together to challenge it, or even against artificial intelligence in the popular culture like Terminator. Well, that is not what's going to happen here. In fact, quite the opposite. And I'll explain why again elsewhere, so stay tuned for that. But what do you think of what I've laid out here? I don't have the answers. We are in an artificial intelligence arms race right now. This is the direction I think it's going to head in, that all major decisions from procurement to application will be made by AI systems in the future. In fact, AI is going so far that the capabilities themselves may be developed by artificial intelligence to implement strategies that we haven't even conceived of yet. So artificial intelligence could go, the best way for China to defeat the United States is to have these new capabilities that are theoretically possible that we haven't even conceived of yet, that the artificial intelligence itself designs and builds and then implements the strategies for its maximal effect. So we're seeing this already. GPT-4 is a real-life interactive tool that shows that this article comes to reality. Now, I did say at the start that I would talk about what GPT-4 had to say about this article, and I'll read it out verbatim. It says, and I quote, "To summarize, the article is accurate and credible, and its conclusions about the potential impact of AI on global power correct." Thank you very much. Leave your comments down below. Do you feel that the threat for AI in terms of global arms race is a primary threat? Are there others that are of graver importance, more urgent than this? I would love to hear your discussions. Be polite to one another. We are all, as a collective whole community, grappling with these massive challenges. They're bigger than each of us, so be humble before it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.